excited for sure, and I think our team is the most hungriest they've ever been, obviously. It's almost like we're resetting, and this is what jumpstarts our year almost.
Welcome, everyone, to the Driving Vision podcast brought to you by the Zeigler Auto Group. And here with me, Auto Group Director of Talent Development, Mike Van Ryn. Welcome, Mike.
Hey, thanks, Sam.
Be sure to subscribe to the podcast, like it if you do, and leave a comment. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the special edition of the Driving Vision Future of Zag Today podcast. With us here today, NASCAR driver number 77, Zeigler-sponsored Spire Motorsports driver, Kalamazoo-based, Portage, Michigan, Carson Hocevar. Carson, welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. I appreciate you having me on and allowing me to come do this.
It's exciting to have you here. It's Wednesday. You were going to race on Saturday, or Sunday rather, but got pushed back a day to Monday. What's it like, Carson, to kind of give our podcast listening audience and also Team Zeigler kind of a view behind the scenes? What's it like kind of going through a rain delay? I mean, that's a challenge. You plan on racing on today. You kind of get your head set straight. What's it like a rain delay day?
Well, for me, I like to eat a lot, so I was more bummed that I couldn't take advantage of just eating what I normally eat on Saturday. And then I had to do the good old-fashioned chicken and rice, plain, boring stuff for one more day. That part was a bummer for me, but more than anything, you have people that come in, some people can't stay Sunday, so that kind of makes it challenging a little bit, just as a bummer, right? Not too big of a challenge. We got to take advantage, do a little bit of team bonding, go hang out, go do lunch. I got to see a little bit more time with my family. So on my end, it wasn't too bad. We all get another day off per se. A day in Florida is not too bad, even if it's raining.
That's right.
But more than anything, you just get eager to race. Last time we'd been on the racetrack was Thursday, and we only got 150 miles versus the 500. So we were all eager to race and eager to go. And I think that's probably what led to some aggression really early. And that unfortunately ended our day, but I think that resets the tempo. Everybody kind of calms back down, realizes that could have been them. And then you see what we saw in the 500 of just kind of calm till the end.
So before we go to Monday and the Cup Series race, the big race, Daytona 500, take us to the duels and explain a little bit what are the duels, and then how did you perform at the duels? You exceeded expectation by quite a bit. Take us back to Thursday night.
Daytona, there's a lot of different pieces, different agendas per se. Wednesday's qualifying, which is just the normal one lap, go as fast as you can, hopefully not have a lot of drag and be able to go fast in the air per se. Not let it be slow, but if you do have drag, you have downforce. So you're a little slower by yourself, but actually it's going to have more downforce. It's going to be easier to drive. When it comes to 500 miles, you can't hold on to that thing. You're getting pushes. So there's a lot of different agendas. Some guys really want to qualify up front or want to qualify really good, hopefully lock in to the race if they need to make the race. Or if they have points, they're trying to get on the front row and be able to start on the front row and have those spots locked. Where in the duels, it allows that second chance for the guys that haven't qualified in to race their way in, kind of their last chance, sort of like a B main or LCQ, kind of like what we see on the local short track routes is kind of like heat races, LCQs, just only on the biggest stage in the world, it seems. And but allows us as a team, that we didn't feel confident we were going to have enough speed to the front row, but we always have had really good cars that race good, can take pushes, and just kind of be there in the race. It allows us to not really worry about qualifying because we know we race good, and let the race, the 150 lap shootout be our race and be our qualifying. And that's exactly what we did. We didn't really worry about the timesheet on Wednesday, qualified 38th. And raced really well. Been a good citizen per se. Saved plenty of fuel, had a really good pit stop, and played the timing right, and got into the top 5 and ended up finishing 4th right behind Chase Elliott. And just a little bit more, if I was a little bit more aggressive on my lane change, we might have had a shot to even win the race or run second and push Chase to the win. That allowed us to start 9th in the Great American Race, which I think was huge. Had everybody excited when they make the trip down to Florida, which is also huge for everybody on the Zeigler family. I think everybody was excited. I got a lot of texts after that.
Super excited. What was your thought process as you came across the finish line at the duels, having finished that far ahead of expectation? Where was your head at that moment?
I was pretty happy. I mean, honestly, a little part of me was like, man, I wish I could have like got connected a little bit more and pushed him.
Yeah.
The level of excitement, but it was just all kind of satisfaction, right? It wasn't like, wow, I can't believe we're here. It was more like, man, I'm really glad, we did everything right. We prepared enough. We put the car well together. We executed on pit road. We just did our job, and we kind of landed where we hoped, which would be up front. And we planned on racing good. We didn't plan on qualifying good, but we knew we were going to build our race car. So it made that, when you have to scroll and wait to see where we ended up on Wednesday. When intro time came, we had to sit on the stage for a while and wait for our name to get announced. When we walked down pit road, we got to turn left and go towards the front and see the pace car and everything. That's big for us.
Yeah, and the lineup for Monday's race, the Great American Race, the Daytona 500, it was sure neat to see you in 9th position. You're at the very front of the row of 40 cars or so. Your driver introductions, you were at the very end. You were at the very front and running really well in those first several laps. Very competitive. That car, how did that car feel? It feels like Spire gave you a pretty good vehicle.
Yeah, I was pretty happy with it. The name of the game is saving fuel, so it's pretty tough to pass. So the name of the game is saving fuel. So then when you come down to pit, you don't have to take as much fuel. We don't need to cram it full of fuel. So if you could take a second less fuel, you're going to pass way more guys on pit road than you would probably on the racetrack, or at least it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
So that's really what we were doing, but for how well our car drove in the duel, I actually thought it drove a little better. Like, it was just easier. That was in the nighttime. It should drive the best. In the daytime, it's going to be a little bit hotter, a little worse of handling because the temperature, the tracks gets hotter, the tires get greasier, a little bit more rubber put down. But more than anything, there's 40 cars now of disrupting your air. It's like turbulence, right? Like, it's gonna disrupt it a little bit more versus 20 that we had to deal with at the duel. So I was actually really pumped when we fired off that I felt like I had pretty good amount of speed, both handling, but also I could kind of suck up, I could save fuel, and we were just kind of in just sit and ride. We had track position. It was about maintaining at that point. You want to get up there and lead, but if you do, you're going to burn more fuel. So we didn't want to. This is exactly what we did in the duel. We just kind of sat. And then once we came to pit road, we were able to take a little less fuel, and then you race 100%, and you're able to get to the front. So that was kind of our game plan, and just unfortunately just didn't get there.
So we all saw the moment, and we all gasped. I mean, it was a crazy moment near the box. And in fact, I had my iPhone focused on the finish line with the Daytona words, and I was just getting some social media content that we'd play later. And I managed to capture you sliding across the finish line. Talk to us. It was lap 3, I think, right? Third or fourth lap?
Lap 5, yeah.
Lap 5. Talk to us about what the sensation was like in that moment. And then what goes through your mind as you realize you're getting hit, you're wrecking? Where does your mind go in that moment?
It all happened without me really knowing it. I was bottom of 3 wide. The first 2 lanes were kind of saving fuel, kind of backing up. And they created a third line on the top. And someone gave a bad push, spun the guy from the top, hit the guy in the middle, and chain reaction hit me on the bottom, and he spun across my nose. At that point, I really didn't know where we were at. I was just kind of like trying to hold the wheel straight as possible. I really didn't get hit or anything or spun. I was just trying to keep the wheel straight as much as possible and try to slow down and figure out where I'm at, because all I see is smoke, and the car ahead of me spun sideways. And then I hit the grass, which is has 2 days worth of rain on it. Instantly starts doing 360s, which actually, looking back, would have saved us from hitting the wall, but unfortunately a car that was like 36 of the 38 or 38 of the 40, you just didn't really have any chance to go and misjudged I was going to come back up, so he throttled up and realized way too late and hit the front end of our car and damaged us. Otherwise, I think we would have been salvageable for sure.
You still tried, even in that moment when you came to a standstill, you still tried to drive out, right? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, you have to, until they force you. We just had too much damage. When these things are when the tires are flat for starters, it's almost near impossible to get them going. The toe links were broke. I mean things were more torn up than what I could see and hope for. I could see the nose buckled, but obviously I couldn't see what all was broke. And I'm trying to spin and the left front's really not doing anything, so I'm just spinning around basically. And then I'd get stuck in the grass again, then I wouldn't get stuck in the grass. So after like the third time they pulled me out of the grass because I would spin and somehow land back in the grass, they were like, okay, we're not pulling you out again.
What are the rules for that? Could they pull you out and you could continue if you can keep going, or what are the rules?
So if you just have flat tires, they can just drug you back to your pit stall. They'll let you change your tires. If you have damage, they'll kind of assess it. If you can't drive back and have flat tires, like you can use the excuse of you have flat tires, but you might have a little bit more damage.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, it's basically, it doesn't have to look too bad, real small damage. And flat tires is the issue. Otherwise, if you can't drive it back, then once they put you on the hook, they don't let you ride in the tow truck, basically. They just force you to kind of get out and go to the infield care center, and your day's basically over. So unfortunate that it ended so early, but at least on the bright spot, we still have that duel to be happy about and excited about, and at least we do know we had some speed rather than have a rough duel and then this.
Did you get injured in the collision, or did you come out pretty clean?
No, that was plenty soft of a hit. I was all good. I was more frustrated than anything, obviously, but no, I was all good.
So you go back to the trailer, day's done, and your mind, where does your mind go at that point as you're sitting back in the trailer and you're listening to the rest of the race? Do you start thinking about next week? I think next up is it Atlanta?
Yeah, we all did. It's tough to watch, obviously. You don't want to watch, but you can't not watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, you start thinking about, if I was in this spot, I would be doing this. Or, you start reimagine if your car was in the race. Or if yourself was in the race. So it just makes us more excited to get to Atlanta and just go again. I think all of us, if we could have hit the reset button, we would want those 5 laps back for sure.
However, there's not much you could have done in that moment, in that space, right? You were in the perfect spot where you could not have avoided that collision, unfortunately, right?
No. I mean, there's nothing we could have done or predicted
Yeah.
It's even harder, too, because of how well we ran in the duel. You normally get track position, it puts yourself in a good spot. And, normally you're pumped that if we ran bad in the duel and started in the high 20s and 30s, we'd be sitting here, if we ran better in our duel, we had some better track position, we wouldn't have been in the chaos or mess. But, I mean, you had everything. Hard spot. You think that's about the safest spot you could be, and you're going to be ahead of all the mess and chaos. And, unfortunately, we're about 90 degrees to the left of it.
Any crazy comments from any other drivers after you're pulled out? Any props or encouragement from other drivers?
Not a whole lot. They're all still basically all out there, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I didn't really see a lot of them. But no, our 77 team's really excited. More than anything, a lot of encouragement from the Zeigler team, honestly.
Good.
Everybody can be down, but Aaron and everybody in his family, I think they all understood, obviously, right? They make that big trip down. There could be a lot of disappointment there, but no, they were really as chipper and as positive as I've ever met them, and is what I've grown to know them as is, hey man, that's racing. It's part of it.
Yeah.
We got plenty more.
That's right.
We got a lot more racing to do as a team, but also as partners together as primaries. Got plenty more, and this is just the start of it. And we can't do worse next week because there's only 38 cars. There's not 40. So
that's right.
We're guaranteed to finish 2 spots better.
So transitioning to next week, and by the way, everybody across the Zeigler Auto Group and our dealership stores across the Auto Group, at our Chevy store there in Schaumburg, the TVs were on. People were streaming the race, and it was really fun to see all of Zeigler world tuning in to watch, but then also to be in Kalamazoo and Portage. I was at the race with you, but on Thursday night, the night of the Wednesday night of the qualifyings, I was at a bar in Portage, and there were people gathered around that TV to watch you race and to watch you run. People that knew you from high school and elsewhere that didn't even realize that you were driving NASCAR, that you were Zeigler sponsor. Just super excited for you and for this big shot. And it's cool to see how well you performed in the duels and the potential that lie ahead for the rest of the season. So take us to, if you would, your next race. What's up next?
Next, Atlanta, a little bit similar to Daytona. It's considered a super speedway, but really it's a mile and a half, but with a lot more banking and pavement. So we put the same package we do super speedways, a lot of drafting, but not much of a big pack, but more very strategic jockeying of positions, right? There's a lot more passing involved potentially, but you got to be a lot more decisive with your moves. It's so interesting. It's just a mix of a 1.5-mile race where there's dirty air involved and you get a little spread out, and handling matters so much versus, and then also combine that with the super speedway back, drafting and being in the pack. It's a really big balance, and the track's only getting more worn as the day goes.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I think it's interesting, and I think every team's kind of scratching their head, wondering whether it's going to be more of a super speedway or more handling than anything. So in the spring last year, it was very close. Everybody was kind of like normal super speedway, kind of all on top of each other basically. But in the fall, it was a lot warmer, or in the summer, really, it was a lot warmer, and everybody fired off, expecting the same deal, and they were all getting spread out. Handling mattered so much. People are wondering whether the track wore that much, or it was the heat, or a little bit of both. Now is it going to be like that because the track's worn even more? It's going to be a really interesting race, but it's one of the raciest places we go to. So I'm excited for sure, and I think our team is the most hungriest they've ever been. Obviously, it's almost like we're resetting, and this is what jumpstarts our year almost.
Yeah. Well, we are going to be watching you in that race. Our next race, the Zeigler Auto Group sponsored next race, is Talledega, which is also an iconic course. And we don't want to think too far ahead to April in that race because you've got a lot of racing between now and then, and we know you're going to see some success as you come into that, but we're excited to see you there at Talledega. So as we wrap up, Carson, just a couple questions. You mentioned meat and beans, I think, and rice. What's your race day diet? How do you prepare for a race? How do you fuel yourself so that you're able to go the distance at a place like Daytona, Atlanta, or Talledega?
I eat more than anybody I know, basically, honestly. But normally I do like a little bit of chicken and rice. Normally if they have some plain noodles, I'll throw that on there. And then sometimes, early in the morning or earlier, a little bit more distance from the race, I'll have some salad with some dressing and some eggs and cucumbers, and then I'll have a banana just before I go. So yeah, that's basically it. Sometimes throw French dressing on it, and kind of mix it all together and give everybody weird looks because they think it's gross. But that's basically it.
That's awesome.
Otherwise, I just go down to the food section we have, and it's kind of like a buffet, and I'll just pile that stuff up.
Just get whatever they have. What's one thing, Carson, that would surprise everybody to know about being a NASCAR driver? What's one thing that would just surprise most people that maybe most people don't know, that kind of take us behind the scenes? The biggest myth maybe of being a driver.
Just to take you behind the curtain, a lot of times, we have a lot of different things to do throughout the day and throughout the weekend. Daytona 500 especially, I don't know any myths that I can think of or that comes to the top of my head, but there's a lot of meetings involved. There's driver meetings, which is really cool, that behind the scenes they have these driver meetings, and then the red carpet walk, which is always super cool.
You met The Rock this time.
Yeah, we met The Rock this year at Daytona, which was really cool. But a lot of times it's not just the sponsored meetings, but there's a lot of meetings involved, and at the cup level it's so different. I don't want to say there's a driver union, but it's super cool to talk and interact with. They have a drivers only group chat, and then they have a drivers only group chat. There's a drivers only group chat with NASCAR, and there's a drivers only group chat with just drivers. So yeah, that stuff's really interesting, of just the communication there and how it talks and how people will bring stuff up after the race and just how close. It's like a little club almost between drivers, which is super interesting. Obviously in the other group chat, sometimes they'll be a little bit more vocal that the boss, right, NASCAR, can't see, which is sometimes very entertaining, and then it's just interesting. It all, that's kind of the little behind the scenes.
So do some of the fights and whatnot spill over into the group chat? For example, there's infamous times last season where people went to blows, right? Does that turn into the group chat, or does that stay pretty clean on the group chat? Is that more for a public show?
Well, I don't know. I just got added recently. I know it was a very big topic of conversation of who liked the Thunderbirds practicing for 20 to 30 minutes, or the ones that disliked it. So that I know that was the big topic of conversation in the chat. A lot of the drivers stay at the motorhome lot, and obviously a lot of them will have dogs or their family for this big of a week, when they're practicing at 8 a.m. that could.
Yeah, that makes it tough. You can't sleep in at 8 a.m.
Yeah, as race fans, we hear all the time about noise ordinance with racetracks, let alone these big-time Cup drivers, obviously, with their families. They're gonna be a little bit more vocal than some.
Well, Carson Hocevar, we were so grateful you agreed to join us on the show. It was a heck of a lot of fun to watch you this past weekend, both at the duels where you just absolutely crushed it, had a great time, but then also in the big race. We're excited for the coming up race there in Atlanta. And then next time you're in town in Kalamazoo, we need to get you out to Motorsports, Zeigler Motorsports, have you run the track, and also have you come by Zeigler Chevrolet and take a look through some of the Chevys that bear the name that sit on your jersey. So we're grateful for you. Any last comments to Team Zeigler out there, Carson?
No, I'm looking forward to it. Regardless of Zeigler's big or small, I'm thinking about all the Zeigler family, and you guys are definitely a part of this. Blow Sam's phone up if you want to go to the race, because I definitely want to see everybody out there, and I'm excited for it. And if we win the race, I'm definitely gonna try to talk Aaron into let me sneak a Can-Am or something out of Motorsports.
Let's do it.
I got a plan that we need to win a race, because I'm excited to go to Motorsports and go tear some stuff up. I'm allowed 2 wheels, not 4 wheels, or allowed 4 wheels, not 2 wheels.
Not two. Okay.
I'm limited to what I could use out of that shop, so I'm excited for it.
We'll replay the duels there at Zeigler Motorsports on a Can-Am side-by-side. So Carson Hocevar, NASCAR driver, Spire-sponsored Chevy, Zeigler Motorsports. Appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
A special thanks to Carson Hocevar for contributing to this week's podcast. Be sure to tune in tonight as we live stream President's Circle Awards ceremony. Until next week, remember, how are you driving vision today?